Mr. Brown.
You need to think about where do you want to be, what do you want to have, how do you want to live this life, right? And I even found myself thinking about readjusting the goals that I have, because I'm thinking, are you thinking too small even? But we'll get back to that in a second. So think about where you want to go and how you want to live your life. That is a huge thing, because if you don't know where you're going, how could you ever have a plan? Like, how could you ever construct a way to live life if you don't even know where you're going? That means you're going wherever the wind blows you, and you can't do that either, because then you're just what are you, right? If you just blown with the wind, insignificant existence. So the first thing I would say in setting a smart goal or having goals in general is to know it. Like, where do you want to be? Even if you don't fully know the end goal, like where do you want to die? Like, if you don't even know that, that's fine. But figure out even the smaller goal that you can measure out and quantify, right? Maybe it's, how much money do I want to make this year, right? Do I want to be in a relationship this year? Do I want to have kids this year? Right? Where do I want to go this year? What kind of man do I want to be by the end of the year? Right? Figure out what these goals are for your life, maybe for the first year. Maybe you're not equipped with the skill set to sit down and really plot out what you want to do for the next 5, 10, 20, right? Plot it out in a smaller increment. So the first thing to setting goals is knowing where you want to go, but then plotting out something that's measurable. Because maybe you can't measure 5 years, but you can measure a year. Maybe you can't measure a year, but you can measure 6 months. Maybe you can't measure 6 months, but you can measure a month, right? Maybe you can't measure a month, but you can measure a week, right? You can measure out something. So when it comes to your life, let's say setting a goal, the first thing you need to know is, yes, knowing where you want to go, but then making sure that you can measure it. Making sure that you have the wherewithal to sit down and really measure out what you want to do. And once you figure out what you want to do, perfect. Now is the next step, which is now finding, how do I then achieve said goal? Because smart goals, right, are measurable. So, right, if you can quantify how and where you want to go and what it takes to get there, okay, cool. Now you need to break it down to even the smaller steps. So again, we'll talk about systems, and we've talked about systems before. Create systems for each step of the way, right? So maybe the change for you, or the goal for you within the next year, 6 months to a year, is I want to change the way I look. I want to change my body. I want to go from dad bod to muscular man, right? Well, then cool. Analyze where you are current. Figure out where your current standing is. Figure out where your baseline, where are you starting from? Because you're not going to start from the same as everybody else that you may see online. You're not going to start from these imaginary places in your brain. No, you're starting from an actual spot. So figure out what that actual spot is and then adjust accordingly. Once you figure out your baseline, figure out the next day. You don't need to go a mile a minute when it comes to figuring out what you're going to do. Figure out the small things first. What does a day look like for a person that has the body that I'm looking to achieve, right? What do they eat? How long do they work out? What exercises do they do? Think about all of those things first, right? A one day, 24-hour plot out of what that day looks like, right? Then extrapolate that out into the week. How many times do they cheat a week in terms of their food? How many times do they go to the gym a week? How long in total in terms of hours do they spend at the gym, right? And once you have a solid week of understanding this is how I do, then all you have to do is go try to execute on that gym day or on that gym week. Work out for a week. See if you can get through the week, right? If you get through the week with ease, or not with ease, but you can conquer and go through the week knowing that, okay, cool, I did good. I got through the entire week. Now just extrapolate that out into the month, right? Systems. what and how do I operate on a day-to-day basis? Then what do I do on a weekly basis? Then what do I do on a monthly basis? And so on and so forth. And the more that you go through these things and try them out and see where your shortcomings are, see where the pitfalls are, see what you do really well, see what you don't do really well, see some things that you want to tweak, then you can just adjust accordingly, but at least you have a starting point. Right? Again, go back to the first topic. If you want to go, you need to know where you're going, right? And so now that you know where you're going and you can figure out little ways to continue and make sure that these habits are set in stone, once you figure that out, now it's optimizing it to the life that you live. Because maybe you have all this time in the summer because let's say you're a teacher. You have all this time to change your body and go to the gym all day, and maybe you're going for 2-3 hours a day and XYZ. But now that school starts, you don't necessarily have that freedom anymore. So you need to cater your lifestyle that you've just gained. You need to cater your new lifestyle. Fuck. Driving like a madman right now, trying to drive with one hand and a coffee in hand. Duras. Right? So maybe you need to change up your schedule a little bit from going for 2-3 hours to now going for an hour, right? And then maybe you need to up the amount of workouts you do within that hour so that you get the same workout and the same burn that you got when you went for 2-3 hours, right? It's all about adjustment with goal setting. When you have these lofty goals and you have these ways of living that you wanna be in or you wanna attract and really implement into your life, you need to also know how to adjust them when it's time, right? Because your life isn't linear. Things aren't just gonna be the way they are right now forever. Things are going to change, and you also then need to adapt and adopt the new habits that come with the changes that come with life. And once you figure that out, then you can continue going down the path that you want to, right? So it takes a little time, yes, but you can do it as long as you take the time to work out. Once you have that established, you can then now extrapolate out. Because all it takes is figuring out the day-to-day, then figuring out the weeks, then figuring out the months, and then figuring out the years. And you can do that with any sector. If it's money, take the amount of money that you want. And we talked about money before, and we might talk about money again soon, right? Take the amount of money that you want, break it down into hours, break it up into what you want to do and how you're going to funnel the money in, right? If you have a business that you're working with, okay, how much is it going to take to make this set amount that you want to make gross? Right? And always remember that gross is the money that you get in and net is the one that you keep. So, okay, how much do I want to make gross? How much do I want to make net? Figure it out and just break it down. 720 hours in a month. Break it down. How much money do I want to make every hour on the hour? Right? How much money am I losing every hour on the hour? And then just work your way up to the goal that you set. So break it down. Understand how you do it, and then continue to repeat that cycle every single day until you get to your goal. It's simple, and it sounds really simple, but then execution is the next part, right? How do I execute? Now you got to understand that the goals that you set out for yourself, you may set them out in a mindset of motivation. You might hear a video like this and get all amped up and like, yep, I'm going to write shit down, blah, 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 blah. I've done it before. I've been there. I've got amped up and then written all these lofty goals down and then do shit about it the next day. Think about it that way. When you get these spurts of motivation, understand that motivation isn't all. You need to apply pressure with discipline. So even when you don't want to go to the gym, you still go. Even when you want to eat a fucking cheeseburger, knowing that it's going to be terrible for your diet, you don't eat it and you go eat what you know is good for you, right? Sticking to a certain exercise or a certain workout routine that you know is going to get you the results you want and sticking to that even though it's hard, right? Doing the hard things even when it's easy to slack off, even when you don't want to. Right? Even when your mindset's not there. Even when your headphones die and you leave them at home. Even when your phone dies and you leave it at home. Even when stress is taking you over, you still find a way to continue to find a way to get to your goal. Because life is not linear, bro. And like I said a second ago, life is not always going to be what you think it is right now. Life is going to pass and come. It's going to be like waves. And waves don't necessarily mean bad. Waves just mean shit's gonna change. You're not always going to live in the same town that you live in. You're not always going to operate with the same people that you have in your life. You're not always going to be single. You're not always going to be in a relationship. You're not always going to be in a financial stable spot. You're not always going to be broke. Like, you have to understand that life is going to change you and put you in environments so that you evolve in a way that gets you to your end destination. And the only way you're going to evolve and adapt to the changes of life is if you have an understanding of what that final destination looks like. Understand that you're going to have to adapt. And we can drop it right there. Just adapt. And once you start adapting, understand that discipline and doing what you have to do. So when the adaptations are not in place, you still are doing the things that you know will garnish you the results that you want. Right? So discipline and execution is there. And then the final thing, and I think we'll end it right here, is your why. You need to have a strong enough why to handle that adaptations and changes of life. Bro, I literally am going through that right now. Because your why is also going to change if it's not good enough.
Boy, Mr. Brown.